There are many mysteries of the past that fascinate us even today. Who was Jack the Ripper? Why did the Zodiac Killer's reign of terror abruptly end? Was there really witchcraft at Salem? These are the questions that keep us up at night and keep us wondering. What is it about these kinds of stories that fascinate and draw us in? Hi, welcome to NormanRebates. On this inaugural episode of Vintage Mysteries, we'll explore the story of one of my personal favorites, the disappearance of the crew of the Mary Celeste. The Mary Celeste was an American merchant brigantine, essentially a ship with 2 masts and at least 2 sails on the main mast. Originally, she was a British ship named the Amazon that was built in Spencer's Island, Nova Scotia, completed around 1861. By 1868, the Amazon was sold into American ownership and given her new name, the Mary Celeste. She sailed without incident, although she had been wrecked prior to her sale to the American merchant Richard W. Haynes. She was used for transferring cargo to and from the United States and Europe. Things seemed to be going pretty well, until 1872. By that time, the Mary Celeste was under the captainship of Benjamin Spooner Briggs and a sizable crew for the time, carrying a cargo of 1,701 barrels of denatured alcohol, a poisonous substance, and was bound for Genoa, Italy. She left Pier 50 in New York Harbor on November 5th, and all seemed to be going decently. Briggs's wife, Sarah, told her mother that the crew seemed to be capable and everything seemed to be going smoothly. Nothing was out of the ordinary. Not with the ship, not with the crew, and not with Captain Briggs. In nearby Hoboken, New Jersey, the D.A. Gracia, another merchant vessel, awaited its cargo of petroleum to be loaded. They were set to depart on the 15th, following the same route as the Mary Celeste, to Genoa via the Strait of Gibraltar. On December 4th, 1872, while closing in on the strait, the D.A. Gracia spotted a ship floating listlessly towards them. Captain Morehouse of the D.A. Gracia immediately assumed that something was wrong, given the erratic movements of the ship and the odd set of the sails. They saw nobody on deck, their signals weren't answered, and after closing in a bit closer, Morehouse and his crew determined that the ship was the Mary Celeste. Captain Morehouse sent some men aboard to take a look around, and they found the sails in poor condition or completely missing, along with swaths of damaged rigging and various hatches and portholes open, seemingly haphazardly. The one lifeboat that had been aboard the Celeste was also missing. The binnacle that held the ship's compass's glass was shattered, and more than 3.5 feet of water was present in the hold. The amount was significant, but for a ship the size of the Mary Celeste, it was nothing to be too alarmed about. A makeshift sounding rod was also found abandoned, clearly having been used to measure the amount of water in the Celeste's hold. They found some water damage from open hatches and portholes, but overall the crew quarters and the captain's quarters seemed to be structurally sound. In Captain Briggs's quarters, they found a number of personal effects scattered about, including a sheathed sword, but most of the navigational equipment and the captain's papers were missing. The galley was also tidy. No food had been prepared or was being cooked at the time of the abandonment, and there were plenty of rations still stowed away. More than enough for the trip to Genoa, where they undoubtedly would have restocked provisions, and also partway back. Interestingly enough, the last log entry was written on November 25th, more than 9 days prior to the Gracia encountering the ship. It was found in the mate's cabin, recording the ship's position as nearly 400 nautical miles away from the position it was located in by the Gracia. There were no signs of violence or fire, none that were obvious anyway, and all other signs pointed to the crew of the Celeste exiting the ship in an orderly fashion by means of the lifeboat. Following the discovery of the Mary Celeste's dereliction, Morehouse decided to bring the ship to Gibraltar, where she underwent a salvage investigation and hearing. But what happened to the crew of the Mary Celeste? There are many theories as to what actually happened to the ship's crew. Despite reports that the Mary Celeste hadn't encountered foul weather due to a vial of oil being found upright, there's still suspicion that the ship might have met a storm, a seaquake, or a waterspout. This theory is supported by the sounding rod found on board. The state of the rigging seems to suggest that the crew might have boarded the lifeboat, used the rigging ropes to tether themselves a safe distance from the ship, and then they could have used the ropes to bring them back to the Celeste once the danger had passed. But if the crew was so worried that they abandoned the ship in the first place, why would they tether themselves to it? If they believed the ship was sinking, tethering the lifeboat to the ship would put them at risk of being pulled under as well. If they feared that their cargo of denatured alcohol was about to explode, what would the point have been to tether themselves to a ship that was going to blow up? Another theory to the fate of the crew of the Mary Celeste is a mutiny. According to the hearings in Gibraltar, traces of blood might have been found on the captain's sword, and a few deep gashes were found in the bow of the ship. If a mutiny had occurred, however, where was the blood evidence? Supposedly, it could be argued that the survivors of the mutiny cleaned the blood up, but the cargo, food rations, and most items of value were still on board, and besides all of that, where were the survivors at all? Taking the lifeboat would be a risk, and they had increased safety in a larger vessel such as the Celeste in case of a storm or waves. A more unpopular theory posits that it's possible that Morehouse, the captain of the Gracia, lured the Celeste's crew on board and killed them there in order to claim a reward for recovering a derelict ship. There's a sizable reward available at the time for collecting derelict merchant ships, but the Gracia was significantly slower, left port over a week later, and simply couldn't have caught up with or surpassed the Celeste in order to ambush her. One theory is that Moroccan pirates might have looted the ship and killed the crew, but again, the cargo and many items of significant value were completely untouched. And of course, the more off-the-wall theories posit aliens, giant squid, krakens, or even the crew finding money on board another derelict ship and deciding to live the rest of their days in Spain. Unfortunately for the Mary Celeste, following her discovery and the myths and gossip involving murder surrounding her crew's disappearance, she rotted away for years in the wharves until she was sold at a loss to a pair of New York businessmen. They sent the Celeste on trips to the West Indian and on Indian Ocean routes, and she traded every sort of thing that you could possibly imagine. Eventually, though, in 1885, the ship was deliberately run aground by its captain at the time, and sadly, sank. So now comes the more candid and fun part of the video where I tell you my personal theories. While I think it's possible that she might have, run into pirates or something of the sort, the lack of stolen items seems to tell me that that wasn't the case at all. If it was weather, why was there not more evidence of it? I mean, granted that vial of oil possibly could have been upright again, or rather placed upright again by the crew of the Gracia, but there was not a lot of damage that posited a storm of some kind. Her sails, some of which were furled and others were missing, but there weren't very many that were tattered. And the rigging didn't seem to be damaged in a way that would indicate a storm as well. I suppose it's possible that, there was a mutiny of some kind, but again, there's no blood evidence anywhere, and there are no surviving crew members, unless, of course, they thought that they could make it to land or they would be fine in the water. But again, with the lack of missing personal effects and everything basically being accounted for, doesn't seem to point that direction either. If you were going to take the lifeboat, you would think that you would want to take some rations, water, something. But alas, there didn't seem to be any missing rations either. I don't really know what caused the crew of the Mary Celeste to disappear. It's not something that I'm a professional at and I have any way of knowing, but of course, I'd like to know the answer. But that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching, stay spooky, and I really can't wait to see you all in the next video. I'm just getting started right now, so I'm not really sure about schedules or anything like that yet, and definitely experimenting with the setup and the format and themes and things like that. I do want to do more mysteries and true crime and things like that, but I also would like to do some more fun and upbeat and silly things as well. I guess you could let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. But thank you, and I can't wait to see you all again. Peace.